Guys, what is up? We are back. I wanted to jump on here and talk to you guys about how to change your SP. Because this is a big one. You know, so many people, they say things like, oh, if my SP would change, everything would be good. I'm not the one that's doing anything, it's him. And I want you guys to realize that on the surface, on the physical plane, that's what it looks like. But on the mental plane, on the spiritual plane, a lot of it is very much your fault. Because usually your SP is a perfect match to you. And when I say a perfect match, I mean it's a perfect match to whatever beliefs, etc., traumas, etc., you have going on inside of you. So the real way to change your SP, like most people think it is, because what most people do is they try to talk their SP's head off. They try to say, they say things like, oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you just change? Or, why don't you listen to me? Or I wish you would do this more. I wish you would do that more. Not realizing that all of that stuff is pretty much futile. Trying to get your SP to change that way from talking to them a bunch of times, that stuff is pretty much futile. It's not going to solve anything. Nothing's going to really change that way. And the reason why nothing's going to change that way is because nothing is changing energetically. If you want your SP to change, if you want anyone to change, or any situation to change, this is for a family member, if you're in a relationship currently, your husband and wife, or your girlfriend and boyfriend, or a sibling, or, a friend, a very good friend, the way you get them to change is you don't talk to them physically. You don't talk their head off. You don't go see a counselor physically, etc., etc. The way you get them to change is you do the inside work. When I say the inside work, I mean you do the inside work on yourself. That's the way you get your SP to change. Because what people don't understand is life is mental, life is spiritual. It's not physical, contrary to what everyone thinks. So if you want your SP to change, you got to change the way you see them. You got to change the way you view them. You got to change the inner talk. You got to change the inner dialogue that you're so accustomed to hearing from them. You got to get out of your head. You got to stop having those invisible arguments with your SP. As I know so many people do, they fake argue in their heads with their SP or with whoever it is that they have problems with, And this is what I want you guys to understand. This is what you have to stop doing. And the reason that arguments, etc., keep happening is because you guys continue to have these fake arguments in your mind and see your SP as not being changed and see your SP as stubborn. People say, oh, my SP is so stubborn. How can I change my SP? Your SP is stubborn because that's how you see him or that's how you see her. So if you want your SP to stop being stubborn, you have to go inside and do the inside work and change the way you view them and start to say things like, and start to affirm and start to feel, say, oh, isn't it wonderful how my SP is no longer stubborn anymore? Isn't it wonderful that my SP literally changed overnight and they understand me now and we connect on a much higher level than we did just a week ago? Isn't it wonderful my SP listens to me and really feels me when we have conversations? Isn't it wonderful we no longer fight? Isn't it wonderful we no longer argue about stupid shit? Or isn't it wonderful we no longer think about the past or living in the past? And that's what you have to understand. When you're constantly arguing with your SP in your mind, and in the mind, you're constantly in the past, those situations are going to keep reoccurring. See, what people don't understand is our bodies are physically in the now. Physically, we're here in the now. But mentally, spiritually, emotionally, our minds, our spirits, our souls are still living in the past. And that's why we can't never get past, and that's why we can't never heal things, is because we are still holding on to that. Like I said, our bodies are here physically in the present, But everything else that matters, the real stuff that matters, it's still in the past. And so you have to get your mind and your heart and your emotions, etc., out of the past. And that is how you change a person. And you have to focus on staying present. And that's something that meditation does a great job at. It's meditation helps us stay in the present, keeps our minds and our hearts and our souls in the presence, and you stop thinking about something that happened last year or last week or last month or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever the case may be. And that's the big problem why most people, they can't manifest their SP back, or that's why they can't manifest their current SP to change, because I know a lot of people want their SP to change. And the reason they can't manifest their SP to change is because, like I said, in their mind and in their hearts and in their souls and their emotions, etc., they're still in the past. They're still thinking about the past. And like I said in one of my other videos, the past and the future are two thieves that will rob you of the present moment every time. And you got to get rid of these two thieves, because the present is the only thing that's ever real. The present is all that's ever real. The present is always happening. So I want you guys to remember that. So if you want to change your SP from being stubborn, you have to stop seeing them as stubborn. You have to stop viewing them as saying hurtful things and this and that. And the way you do that is, like I said, stay in the present. You can do Neville Goddard's revision technique, where you can go back and change situations that happened in your relationship and change them and review them to how you wanted them to go. You wish the situation would have happened. It's called the revision technique. You can do that. Again, like some of you guys know, Ho'oponopono. You can do Ho'oponopono and forgive them that way. But most importantly, you have to start living in the now. You have to get out of the past and bring those emotions and see your SP energetically, see them being different, and start to affirm and say those things like I said earlier. Isn't it wonderful my SP has changed and we no longer fight? Isn't it wonderful he's no longer stubborn? Or isn't it wonderful she's no longer stubborn? Because the story you keep telling yourself, like Abraham Hicks says, you have to start telling a new story. Start to tell a new story. But what happens is most people, they continue to tell the old story. You know, it doesn't matter if you want to manifest money. Most people say, oh, you know, they keep telling the old story. Well, I work at the same job, you know, my bank account's always low, but yet they want to manifest more money. You can't manifest more money by telling the same story that you've been going through in the past. Just like you can't manifest your SP to come back in your life, or you can't manifest your SP to change in your current relationship by telling the same old story. You have to tell a new story. You have to beat a new drum, as Abraham Hicks says. She says, beat a new drum. Start telling the new story. Wow, isn't it wonderful we finally went out to dinner? You know, wow, isn't it wonderful they finally keep the house clean, and that they no longer, you know, steal my stuff or break into my stuff, etc., etc. Start to tell a new story about your SP, whether it's through affirmations, whether it's through scripting, or whatever the case may be. Start to tell a new story and see the new story in your mind. Get rid of the old story, and that is the way that you will be able to change your SP. Because like I said, change happens when you do the inside work, not the outside work. Don't try to talk their head off. That's not going to work. You're just going to piss yourself off, and you're going to piss them off. You know what I'm saying? If you want someone to change, do the inside work. See them as being changed energetically. Become an energetic match. All right, guys? I wanted to hop on here again, share this with you. This wisdom that I've been fortunate enough to learn at a young age and share with the entire world. Marvin's Room. I'll see you guys next time. You know where, you know when.